Jasmine. Jasminum sambac, the variety most commonly grown indoors, comes from India and Southeast Asia, though it's now the national flower of the Philippines, where it's strung into leis and religious garlands. Unlike its cousin Jasminum officinale, sambac keeps blooming through most of the year if it gets enough light, which is why it ends up in so many living rooms. The flowers open in the evening and close by late morning, so the strongest scent hits right around the time you're trying to fall asleep. Jasmine tea is made by layering the actual blossoms over tea leaves overnight and then removing them, a process repeated up to 7 times for the good stuff. Keep it near a bright window and expect visitors to ask if you're burning a candle. You are not. That's just the plant showing off. Gardenia. Gardenia jasminoides is native to China and southern Japan, and it has the reputation of being the diva of the houseplant world. It wants bright light, high humidity, and consistently moist but well-drained soil, and it will drop its buds out of pure spite if you move it to a different room. Despite the difficulty, gardenias remain a staple of prom corsages and wedding bouquets, because the fragrance is genuinely hard to replicate synthetically. The waxy white petals bruise if you touch them too much, turning brown within hours. Growers sometimes describe caring for one as a part-time relationship. It's needy, but it smells incredible, which is more or less the plant world's version of dating someone in a band. Stephanotis, Madagascar jasmine, isn't a jasmine at all. It's a twining vine, native to Madagascar, with star-shaped white flowers that have shown up in royal wedding bouquets since Queen Victoria's era, largely because the blooms hold their shape and scent for days after being cut. It grows well-trained around a small trellis or hoop indoors, and it prefers bright indirect light with a slightly root-bound pot, since Stephanotis actually flowers better when it's a little cramped. The fragrance is heavy and sweet, closer to gardenia than true jasmine. If your living room has ever smelled like a wedding you weren't invited to, this is probably why. Calamondan orange. This is a hybrid citrus, likely a cross between a mandarin and a kumquat, that originated in China and became a staple dooryard tree in the Philippines. Indoors, it stays compact enough for a sunny windowsill and produces small, intensely sour oranges you can technically eat, though most people use them for marmalade or just enjoy the free air freshener. Because there are no pollinators indoors, you'll need to hand-pollinate the flowers with a small paintbrush if you actually want fruit. The blossoms alone are worth it, releasing a citrus perfume strong enough to fill an entire apartment. It's basically a candle that occasionally produces snacks. Curry leaf plant. Mariah koinigi is native to India and Sri Lanka, and crushing a leaf releases a sharp, citrusy aroma that's completely different from the yellow curry powder most people associate with the name. That confusion runs so deep that an entirely separate plant, Helichrysum italicum, is nicknamed the curry plant, simply because its foliage smells vaguely like the spice blend. The real curry leaf plant drops its leaves dramatically if temperatures dip below around 40 degrees, which makes it a seasonal house guest in colder climates. In South Indian cooking, the leaves are fried in hot oil at the start of a dish to release their fragrance before anything else goes in the pan. Rosemary. Native to the Mediterranean coastline, rosemary's name comes from the Latin ros marinus, meaning dew of the sea, a nod to the misty coastal cliffs where it grows wild. It's one of the most fragrant herbs you can own, and also one of the easiest to accidentally kill indoors, since it despises the combination of low light and constant moisture that most houseplant owners default to. Ancient Greek students reportedly wore rosemary sprigs in their hair while studying, believing it improved memory, an idea modern research has actually poked at, with mixed but not entirely dismissive results. It also happens to survive being trimmed into little topiary trees around the holidays, which is the closest most people get to owning a bonsai. Lavender. Also Mediterranean in origin, lavender gets its name from the Latin lavare, to wash, because Romans used it to scent their bathwater. It's a notoriously difficult houseplant since it evolved for dry, rocky, sun-baked hillsides and reacts to indoor humidity about as well as you'd expect. English lavender is hardier and sweeter smelling, while French lavender has a sharper, more camphor-like scent. If you manage to keep one alive on a south-facing windowsill, you'll have technically outgardened a large percentage of people who've tried and given up. Scented geranium. Pelargonium isn't related to true geraniums at all, and it's native to South Africa, where dozens of species evolved wildly different scent chemistry to deter grazing animals. Breeders have exploited that chemistry for centuries, producing cultivars that smell like rose, chocolate, mint, apple, nutmeg, and even citronella, depending on which compounds dominate. The rose-scented varieties were historically distilled into geranium oil as a cheaper stand-in for actual rose oil in perfumery, and most noses can't tell the difference. Unlike most fragrant plants, the scent lives in the leaves rather than the flowers, so you get the smell by brushing against it, not by waiting for a bloom. Chocolate mint. A cultivar of peppermint. Chocolate mint smells uncannily like an Andes candy, thanks to overlapping menthol and cocoa-adjacent compounds in the leaf oil. Mint in general is native to Europe and the Mediterranean, and is infamous for taking over entire gardens through underground runners, which is exactly why most people keep it contained in a pot indoors, rather than letting it loose in the yard. Breeders have pushed the genus into strange territory over the years, with cultivars marketed as smelling like pineapple, orange, or even chewing gum. It's one of the few houseplants where crushing the leaves is basically expected, not a mistake. Holy basil. Known as tulsi in India, this is a different species from the culinary basil in your pasta sauce, and it carries genuine religious weight, considered sacred to the Hindu deity Vishnu, and traditionally planted in a raised pot outside the entrance of a home for protection. The scent is spicier and more clove-like than sweet basil, thanks to higher concentrations of eugenol, the same compound found in actual cloves. It's also a staple of Ayurvedic medicine, marketed today as an adaptogen, a term that promises stress relief without much specificity about how. Whether or not it lowers your cortisol, it will make your kitchen smell like a spice market. Night-blooming jasmine. Cestrum nocturnum is native to the Caribbean and parts of South America, and despite the name, it's not a jasmine either. It's a member of the nightshade family, and every part of the plant is toxic if eaten. The trumpet-shaped flowers stay closed and unremarkable all day, then open at dusk and release a fragrance so intense it's been the subject of actual noise complaint-style disputes in some neighborhoods. A single mature plant can perfume an entire block after sundown. Indoors, a small potted specimen near an open window at night will do more or less the same thing to your apartment, minus the neighborhood petition. Tuberose. Polyanthes. Tuberosa is a genuine botanical oddity. It no longer exists in the wild anywhere on Earth, having been cultivated so long and so exclusively by humans that its true wild origin, likely somewhere in Mexico, has essentially vanished. It's one of the heaviest, most narcotic florals used in high-end perfumery, showing up in scents that cost more per ounce than gold. Each bulb typically flowers once, and then needs to be replaced or forced into a fresh dormancy cycle to bloom again. Growers sometimes joke that tuberose smells like what money would smell like, if money had a smell. Vanilla orchid. Vanilla planifolia is a climbing orchid native to Mexico, and it's responsible for the second most expensive spice in the world after saffron, mostly because of pollination math. In its native range, a specific bee does the pollinating, but everywhere else, every single flower has to be hand-pollinated within a roughly 12-hour window before it wilts, a technique credited to a 12-year-old enslaved boy named Edmund Albius in 1841 on the island of Réunion. Once pollinated, the pods take about 9 months to mature, and then several more months of curing before they develop that familiar sweet aroma. As a houseplant, it produces glossy vining foliage, and with enormous patience, greenish-yellow flowers that smell like almost nothing until you've done all the work yourself. Osmanthus. Osmanthus fragrans, sometimes called tea olive, is native to China, where its small white or golden flowers are dried and layered into tea in much the same tradition as jasmine, producing a fragrance often compared to ripe apricots. In Chinese culture, it's tied to the Mid-Autumn Festival and symbolizes nobility and prosperity, and osmanthus-scented sweets and wine are traditional gifts during that season. Indoors, it grows slowly as a compact shrub and tolerates being pruned into shape far better than most fragrant plants on this list. It's proof that not every intensely aromatic plant needs to be difficult, dramatic, or mildly poisonous to earn a spot on the windowsill. Wax plant. Hoya carnosa is native to East Asia and Australia, and it's better known for its thick, succulent-like leaves and porcelain-textured flowers than for fragrance, which is exactly why its scent tends to surprise people. The star-shaped clusters release a strong, honeyed perfume almost exclusively at night, an adaptation aimed at moths rather than daytime pollinators. And each flower also secretes a bead of sticky nectar that drips onto whatever's below it. Hoyas are famously slow-growing and famously hard to kill, tolerating years of mild neglect before finally rewarding an owner with a bloom cluster. Growers often wait years for a first flowering, which makes the eventual smell feel less like a houseplant and more like a long-term investment, finally paying dividends. Angel's trumpet. Brugmansia is native to South America, and its enormous, pendulous, trumpet-shaped flowers can grow close to a foot long, releasing a heavy, sweet fragrance that intensifies dramatically after sunset to attract night-flying moths. Every part of the plant is highly toxic, containing compounds that have a long and genuinely dark history of use in South American folk medicine, and less pleasantly, as an incapacitating agent in a handful of documented crimes. None of that stops it from being grown as an ornamental houseplant, usually kept out of reach of pets and small children who might find the trumpets tempting to chew. It's the kind of plant that smells like a garden party and comes with a liability waiver. Dwarf eucalyptus. Most eucalyptus species native to Australia grow far too large for indoor life, but dwarf cultivars like Eucalyptus guineae are commonly grown in pots and kept small through regular pruning, which conveniently also encourages the fragrant juvenile foliage that most people actually want. The round silvery blue leaves release a sharp, medicinal camphor-like scent the moment they're bruised or crushed, the same aromatic oils that make eucalyptus a staple of steam inhalation and chest rubs. Koalas can safely eat the leaves thanks to a specialized digestive system that detoxifies the oils, a trick almost no other mammal can pull off. Indoors, a single stem of eucalyptus in a vase can perfume a room for over a week, which is either impressively efficient or slightly unsettling, depending on how you feel about koalas being the only ones qualified to eat your air freshener. That's every genuinely fragrant plant worth keeping on a windowsill, from the sacred to the mildly hazardous. If your favorite scented plant didn't make the list, drop it in the comments, and it might show up in a future video.